Our second speaker is also our unofficial, I guess you could say, YouTube videographer. He's also a YouTuber on the side. Among the many things that he does. All right, if you welcome Randy. The title of his speech is Monkey on a Motorcycle. So Monkey on a Motorcycle,
Go ahead.
Randy McCaffrey. Excuse me.
My first love, recreationally speaking, is dirt bike riding. I grew up kind of in the woods. I grew up in Gulfport when Gulfport was still a small town. And we had dirt bikes from a very young age. My first dirt bike I got when I was 7 years old. And if that thing was running, I was on it. I rode a lot, and I rode hard for a kid. And later on, in riding with friends, that really benefited me. It was kind of like you see other kids that have started out really young in boxing or golf or other sports. When they get older, they really excel, even above people with higher physical abilities or skill level than them. They don't have trouble keeping up. Dirt biking was kind of that way for me, and I started riding motocross tracks pretty early. Wanted to be a big motocross star, but I was big for that. I wasn't heavy like I am when I was a kid, but I was just a big kid. The bikes that I rode that were appropriate for my age weren't necessarily appropriate for my size. So I always rode a lot bigger bikes than I was probably should have been riding, but it helped me to become a really good rider. And so when I was maybe 10 years old, I started riding my dad's bikes, and I would have to get on the picnic table bench to start off on them because I couldn't reach the ground. I couldn't kickstart them. I'd get on the picnic table bench and kickstart it and jump on it and take off. And that's how I rode up through until I was old enough to ride really big bikes. In the 6th grade, I was riding 500cc dirt bikes. It's a little kid to be on a big bike. And my dad was just the cheapest guy when it came to that, so we didn't really have up-to-date equipment. We had old bikes. Everybody else was riding brand new bikes. Anything we ever had was 20 years old. It was like a milk truck. It was double springs and just heavy, hard suspensions. But I grew to love that kind of old bike because I could really throw them around. I could handle them a lot. In the early 2000s, I went to work in California for a short time, and I, by accident, discovered that there was some desert off-roading just about an hour and a half or 2 hours from where I was staying. And I said, I gotta check that out, because I had ridden all over the East Coast, across Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. I've ridden the hare scrambles and the enduro courses, and all of that is really short runs. You're hardly ever out of third gear unless you're crossing a pasture or on a dirt road or something. It's just it's a lot of that, and it's never more than about an hour and a half maximum ride. When I got to California and found what I had seen on TV, I didn't know where it was, but these big, huge sand dunes that you see these trucks launch off of on TV, I was like 2 hours from that. It's glamorous. And I just discovered it by accident. I saw some buggies going to the desert, and I stopped a guy at a gas station. I said, "What's going on? I gotta know." He said, "Man, there's like 10,000 buggies and bikes and everything you can think of going out here for Thanksgiving." And Thanksgiving was coming up too soon for me to do anything about it. I was like, well, I'm going home for Christmas. I'll fly home, get my bike in my truck, bring my bike back, which is what I did. February rolled around, and it was getting warm enough out there that it was borderline too hot during the day to ride, but it was still comfortable in the evenings. And I thought, I'm gonna go out to the desert and ride. I'd never been to the desert before. At that point, I had been strapping my bike down in a hotel parking lot, trying, hoping somebody wouldn't steal it in the middle of the night. I went to a bike shop, never having been in the desert, didn't know anything about desert survival, didn't know anything about where I was going. And I told him where I was going, and I said, what do I need? He said, just your stuff, man. You're a lot of help, dude. So I bought a OGO backpack, and I loaded it with everything I could think that I could possibly need. I had 2 spark plugs, I had Pop-Tarts, toilet paper, water, had a video camera, anything that I thought that I need for if I got stuck in the desert overnight. The only thing that I didn't have was a gun, because they say, there's wildcats out there, and then if you get too far south, there's the drug cartels. And I was like, I got a compass. I'll stay north of 72, and at least if I break down, I know I can just walk south and I can find the highway if I have to. I get to the desert, and I just ride and ride and ride. I'm not too glamorous yet, but I keep seeing all this open space that you can just park and ride. And I was like, this is a dreamland, man. This is incredible. I never did even make it to Glamis. I got about a half hour from Glamis in a place called Ocotillo Wells, and it's a state park. It's got RV spaces and camping and a dirt airport and mountains, what we call mountains. They're probably not any taller than the stacks on Plant Watson, but they look like mountains to me. And I was like, this is the spot. So I pull in there and I unload my bike. I set my gas cans out. I brought all kind of gas. I plan on just riding the wheels off that thing. Lube my chain up. I didn't bring any of my riding gear. I've got the Alpine Star boots and the Moose gear and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't bring any of that. I just had on some jeans and some Timberland shoes, Timberland boots, and my helmet, my gloves. And I just start putting around, riding, following some people, because there's other bikes and four-wheelers out there. And I find this one hill. I'm riding an old XR 500. It's 20 years old at the time. Old bike by their standards, way old. I mean, it's an antique. They have vintage races out there with stuff like that. Everybody else out there has got money. They're riding 2-year-old bikes. I didn't care, because I could ride that like they could ride their 2-year-old bike, and I just had fun embarrassing some of them, because 500, some of them are riding 250s, 450s, and I could still outride them. I find this mountain of sand. They call it blow sand, and they just race up and down it all day and all night. I was like, this is awesome. So I raced up and down, up and down, up and down blow sand. And then I went riding out in the desert, and it was just the most incredible thing, because you could just go, and if you see a hill in the distance that you want to go see, there's no road, there's no signs, you just go. There's not pine tree, there's not bushes and weeds and bramble. You don't have to worry about you might fall in the river if you took off through the weeds. It's just, you just go. Jump hills, dodge the tumbleweeds, and go. And I saw the most interesting stuff out there. They had a place called the Pumpkin Patch, and you can look it up on YouTube, but it's got rocks that look like just giant pumpkins all over the place. And they've got the mud pits where you just got hot mud bubbling out of the desert. It's like, wow, this is incredible stuff. We don't have this stuff in Mississippi. I've never seen hot mud bubbling out of the ground. Never seen pumpkin balls or whatever these things are. But I just rode. And then nightfall comes, it gets dark on me. Thank God I had a headlight on this bike. But at night, the desert turns into the Gulf of Mexico. If you've ever been in the Gulf of Mexico at night, you don't know where you're at. You can't tell. If you're out of sight of land, you don't know where you're at. If you don't have a compass, you're just in trouble. It gets dark, all I can see is desert. And I'm looking around trying to recognize peaks, and I don't see anything that's familiar. I was like, wow, this is crazy. So I get my compass out. I'm not freaking out, so I get my compass out. All right, 72's that way, so I just start making my way to the highway. I get to the highway, that was nothing. I'm at the highway in 10 minutes. Because I had just been riding, I hadn't had any direction. I would just follow the washes through the desert. I get to the highway, and I was like, oh, that was easy enough. And I was like, now which way's my truck? Because it was just that way all the way across. There's no landmarks, there's nothing. I thought, San Diego's that way, so thought if I ride for 30 minutes and I don't see my truck, I'll try the other way. So there's no cars coming. I jump on the highway. I mean, sand just eating my eyeballs out. And I probably rode 5 hours the first day. I propped my bike up, went to sleep. I'm sleeping in my truck. My back's killing me. I get up at like 2 in the morning, step out of my truck, and I'm hearing, looking around the desert, and there's just little whip antennas with little blue lights on them all over the place. I was like, these people are riding at night. Whoa, I'm off. I rode probably another hour in the middle of the night. Come back the next day, and there was I met an older gentleman that rode pretty good for his age, and me and him kind of paired up, and we just went riding. We rode to, must have been an old ammo range or something. Don't go beyond this point or you might blow up or something, you know. I don't know what it was, but we rode all day that day, and he says, man, come back tomorrow and we'll ride tomorrow. And I was like, okay. I was having so much fun out there. At that point, I was starting to feel it in my hips and my back and other places, and I thought, you know, sometimes too much of a good thing is not good for you. So I got in my truck, went to sleep, and I get up the next morning, and I'm gorilla walking. I'm gorilla walking over to the bathroom, I'm gorilla, and I look around, there's other people gorilla walking as well. At this point, this is when I discover there is a thing called monkey butt. Don't know if you ever heard of it. It's a real thing. If you've seen monkey butt powder in the store, it's not a joke. In Mississippi, you don't ride long enough to get monkey butt. When you're in the desert riding for days at a time on sweaty blue jeans, you get monkey butt. So I western walked my way over to this guy's trailer, knocked on the door, and his wife comes to the door. She said, "Oh, hey, are you ready?" And I said, I think I'm done. Just letting you know I'm gonna be riding today. I'm headed back to civilization. Get back to civilization, and of course, first place I stop's a pharmacy, and take care of that little issue. But that was the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. If you can imagine your best vacation ever, or the most dreamy place you've ever been in your life, that was what that was for me. It was Disneyland on steroids, and I can't wait to get back. I made several trips out there. While I was there, I went and rode. I was 100 pounds lighter than I am now, so I was riding quite a bit. Went and rode a motocross track a couple times. Had the worst wreck of my life out on that track. But still, it was good memories. Me and my brother are planning on going back next year. We're gonna try to work up to Ironman the Baja 500. Don't know if it's gonna happen, but if it does, I plan on being well prepared to fight the monkey butt.